And we're back. Welcome to Print Your Games, a podcast about what's new and awesome in 3D printing for games. I'm one of your hosts, Jefferson J. Thacker, also known as Perram, and I'm joined by
Christen, it's also known as Seventh Mastery.
We're back. We're back after a week break because I had to go all the way up to Wisconsin for a week, and I can't podcast from that hotel room. Definitely not from that hotel room.
No, it was that bad, huh?
Oh, not a great hotel room, Christen. It was a converted dorm room, but I think they misread dorm room and meant prison. It had a rubber bed with no sheet on it when I walked in the room.
Rubber?
And like a saran wrapped package of a towel and a pillowcase.
What's kind of upsetting?
It was a bracing experience.
So did you get any supplementary nesting materials for that, or did you just sleep on the rubber?
I slept on the rubber mattress. I was too tired. I was very exhausted throughout that. David is here in chat, who was also at that hotel with us. He had his own room with Tony, who is a friend who played a big role in the convention travel experience.
They got sheets and a blanket, apparently, that you didn't get?
They got a blanket?
That's what they said.
Eventually, I found a sheet. Like,
you drove, right?
Up. Yeah, I drove. It was 2 days.
You don't have like a car blanket or anything?
I don't keep a car blanket. And it was a rental car because, like, I needed to haul, like, So backstory. Last weekend I went up to Tabletop Minions Expo, which is run by the Tabletop Minions, which is Uncle Adam from Tabletop Minions, the YouTube channel, and Vince Venturella, who, from Warhammer Weekly podcast. They were there as Snarling Badger Studios, showing off their new games that they had put together. It was like a small, under 100 people mini con, and it was a test drive to see, hey, how would an OPR booth perform? And we were looking around for tiny conventions to do a test run in, and it was like, hey, this is the perfect venue. These are people that have been very friendly to OPR in the past, released really popular videos talking nice things about the game. It's a great place to go and show off the game and see how we should do conventions. And so I got the little booth together and I put it in the back of an SUV and I drove for 2 days up to Wisconsin, up to Oshkosh, Wisconsin, the University of Wisconsin at Oshkosh specifically, to do this little con. And despite the fact that it was a very long drive, it was rather wonderful. Nice. It was a fun little road trip. Breaking it up over 2 days meant that it was no stress. It was just like nice little time on the road till I got tired, and then hotel.
We have a bad habit of going straight through, so you're probably smart. Like, we normally just power.
No, I wasn't going to do 16 hours in one haul. Not going to happen.
But we switch drivers usually, so.
Yeah. I don't have another me.
Well,
I mean, despite what the voices in my head hint at sometimes, but
get on the cloning tech.
It's just
clones.
I am 3D printing has not yet advanced to the biotech level yet. We can 3D print meat and pizza, but that meat cannot then get up and walk.
Not yet.
No.
And the texture's a little weird from what I understand.
Indeed. So hopped up there, little booth, and got up there into the little hotel room and was very surprised. The hotel room was dirt freaking cheap. That's a good advantage of that. I think it was like $80 for 3 nights, so it was not exactly a tough time. And I got to enjoy all the dorm life experience, including a shower room instead of a private shower.
Oh wow!
And the rubber mattress and like that wooden dorm furniture that like every dorm has that looks like it could stop a bullet if you wanted it to. It's like how it's meant to survive college students somehow. It was an experience. Honestly, I'm enjoying complaining about it, but it honestly wasn't like the worst experience in the world. I've definitely slept in worse accommodations before.
Oh yeah. I've definitely crashed on floors.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
clean. That is an advantage that you cannot understate sometimes.
Especially in the
So,
gaming space. No offense to my brethren, sister, and another. Yeah, gaming space cleanliness is not always a guaranteed. So good on you for that.
and one of the things that happened that was pretty nice is that I told you about the last podcast that like it was the Murphy's Law. Everything was going wrong. My printer was having trouble. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't able to get things printed. The resin was bad. We'll get back to that resin in a minute because David found the correct print settings for that resin eventually.
Oh,
And this is wild. This is absolutely
okay.
wild. David, can you type that stuff in the chat what the settings were again so I get it right? At what you finally got success at. And but that meant that I was up there with unpainted minis on the drive
Mm-hmm.
up there, and I was like, dang it, I'm not going to bring unpainted minis to demos. So I settled on down with my little portable paint kit, the one that has like Perram like blazoned on the side of it, the Frontier Wargaming paint kit,
Yep.
and
Yep.
I cracked out the paints and all like I had like egg cartons filled with minis because I could not find like Murphy's Law continued and I could not find my battle foam case that I got from Battle
So you
Foam.
put them in egg cartons. I mean, there's a good tip for people if you're not
Mm-hmm.
like uh, up enough on the hobby to get a big foam case, because
Mm-hmm.
that would work great actually.
It did. It worked wonderfully. They
Could
all
probably just
survived
grab
the trip.
a milk crate and put a bunch of egg cartons in it.
Yeah. And also like David Wickham volunteered to come help, brought his friend Tony, and the three of us got together and just had a little mini hangout on the day before the convention. And I bought pizza for everybody, and we just sort of just cranked out minis over the weekend. Counting this, I ended up painting over 100 minis, which was fun to do that. Honestly, it was a really good time using old speed paints because I did not bring the new speed paints with me, and
What?
had a blast with it. I painted up a whole bunch of robot legions and Eternal Dynasty for OPR, and David painted up a bunch of Saurians, and his friend Tony painted up a whole host of mummified undead, and
Neat.
it was a great time.
Yeah, I think I painted 5 minis this weekend.
And I kind of just like really just dug the whole like community aesthetic, and also like this was definitely a moment that 3D printing super helped with because like all the minis were 3D printed, that I was able to get everything ready that literally the day before I'm still printing minis off, and like
Yep.
we have giveaway minis and all sorts of stuff, and then like hey, handing out the bottles to paint and like the little shields on top that I printed for those first batch to like be the little test tiles, so that it was real easy to see what
Color.
colors
Yeah.
the speed paints are going to be. It
I
was a fun time.
I think I have like a little bit of a nostalgia ping for the idea of getting together in the dorm and doing that kind of gaming prep. That would be like flashback to my college years of not going to class instead of what I should have been doing and doing gaming stuff.
And at the convention itself, we actually got to get those minis on a table. That's the wrong button. We actually managed to get those minis on a table, and it looked really nice. Once we had the whole I had the booth set up, we were pretty clever with it, where the tablecloth for the booth itself
Mm-hmm.
had two different game mat textures as the top of the table.
Oh,
And
neat.
so I was able to just throw terrain onto the booth table and then just use it as a little mini game board.
So your demo table was basically your booth table.
Right.
Neat.
And I got a picture of that somewhere here. Here we go. And if I can get this to show up, that would be glorious. There we go. Yeah, so like little
Okay.
booth, tiny little booth, little standees in the background. This is in like a little exhibits hall in a college, and you can see like on the side there, I've got like my little 3D printed forest and a bunch of GW terrain and Battlefield in the Box terrain on top of the demo booth, and then on the other side where there's like a like a Mars burnt ruined Earth battle map that I wasn't using. That's kind of where I set up like the display with the minis and the freebies and all the printouts and stuff.
Yeah, your booth looks solid. Uh, do you have any tips? Like, if because we probably have listeners who are getting ready to like demo their own games. Do you think you have any tips you'd run down for about your demo setup, other than just how you did your tables?
I my demo setup was fun but not ideal because of how it was arranged. The when I set two players together, they were basically at 90 degrees from each other, and I would love to set them opposite each other.
Sure.
Now, as we expand the booth in the future, that's going to be less of a problem because I'll be able to actually do that.
Mm-hmm.
But it
But you
was
couldn't
fun.
have them sitting in your booth, basically, right? So
Basically,
that
yeah.
was your downside of using the table
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, and this was a really fun event because there was like lots of really cool game tables all around. There was a Fallout table that was glorious. If you remember all those 3D printable Fallout terrain, like somebody
Yes.
had printed all of it and painted it
Neat.
to a glorious example.
Nice.
Yeah.
Was it somebody related to the company or just a
I think it
fan?
was just a fan, but they were
Nice.
running like a grinders there of the Fallout game, and like there was Relic Blade, there was a lot of OPR, there was BattleTech had shown up. Of course, there were people playing the Snarling Badger games, Space Station Zero, and they were demoing their new game, Majestic 13, which is basically like X Files, like old school, not X Files mixed with XCOM, like Men in
Hmm.
Black versus Space Aliens kind of vibe.
Interesting. Did you get a chance? You had the convention curse. You didn't get to play either of them, did you?
Yeah, no. I was running back to back OPR
That's what I
demos. I
thought.
didn't get to do anything.
Bummer.
Yeah. But man, I've 3D printed so much stuff over and then I got back and I was like, you know what I should do? I should 3D print some more stuff. So I printed up a whole bunch more Ratman, and I got like a bunch of like sisters for some Grimdark Future firefight armies put together, and I'm working on some other armies for that. And also, I'm finally got to. I'll have more to report on this one because I'm not completely done testing it, but I've cracked out that Vulcan resin from Atlas that they sent up.
Oh yeah. How's that?
Yeah, and I ran some test prints on it to calibrate it, which is what I was doing before the podcast. And it's fun. On the Saturn, I had it dialed in at 3.3 seconds is like
Mm.
was like the perfect exposure for my setup. And whereas before my ABS Tenacious, I was having to go all the way up to 4.5 seconds lately,
Oh wow.
which is a little bit on the extreme side. So this is a big savings. Of course, I don't know how much of that was printer needs maintenance because printer needs maintenance, and I'm wondering if I'm wondering if my poor old Saturn is finally reached the end of its service life.
I suspect that has something to do with what you did.
Yeah, this morning I was like, I woke up. So I had a fun idea. He's like, hey, I want a texture palette because everybody's right now talking about dry brushing. It's like, don't empty your dry brush on a paper towel. Do it on something non-porous that won't absorb the moisture. It'll just absorb the thing. And I was like, you know what I need to do? I walked over to the dollar store and I grabbed a picture frame and a whole bunch of toys off the shelf. And I was like, and some Legos. I'm like, I'm going to hot glue this and I'm going to do like I've seen on all those YouTube videos and make myself a texture palette. And then I realized, wait, I have a 3D printer at the house. So I put that away. I didn't do that. And then I booted up Blender and I'm like, aha, I'm going to make myself a little 3-inch by 5-inch little texture palette. I'm going to bring in some of my favorite things, some models that I like to work with, and I'm going to embed them in this texture palette. I'm just going to be able to I'm like, wait a minute, I'm doing all this work for nothing, aren't I? And yes, I did. And I'm like, aha, I bet other people have made texture palettes. So I
I
get
was
on
going to say,
Thingiverse.
I think we've had this discussion before, haven't we?
Yeah, we get on Thingiverse and I'm like, aha, there's some texture palettes and there's all these different ones and they're designed to print on the FDM printers. And I'm like, I kind of want to do this with resin printers. I'm like, yeah, but then I got to find a way to set it up. And then like, oh no, I know exactly what I need to do. So I go over to my file collection. I open up the Human Empire files. I go over to the bases and I find the biggest dang base that they have, a 4-inch by 6-inch rectangle base. There's actually bigger ones if you want to go oval. that is like covered in like all sorts of different textures and street corners and swords and stuff. I'm like, aha, I just need to print a big resin base and use that as my texture palette. And then my Saturn goes, no, I'm not going to do that. Like, what do you mean? I printed all the supports, but not the model. And I'm like, I hate you, Saturn. What did I do to you to upset you so much? And my little Anycubic photon that I borrowed from a friend is still there, just churning along and just happily printing everything. I'm like, oh, it might be time. It might be time, Saturn. I think maybe I've used you up. And to be fair, this is a printer that I have used to death. This printer has been through hell and back with me since I've gotten it. I was one of the first Saturn owners, and like one of the crew experimenting and doing some of the first room stuff, and it's just been like beating this thing all the heck and back since I got it. And I'm happy that and I could probably like strip it and clean it and get everything and replace a bunch of things, and maybe it's time for the UV light to get replaced. I'm pretty sure the screen is still good, so that's not a problem. And then I was like, all these new printers are so much better. We just talked about a ton of them.
We did.
And so I spent today on my lunch break, and I threw up a bunch of printer videos, and I was like, okay, there's really only two choices right now: Anycubic M5S, Saturn 3 Ultra. Which one do I go for? And at the end of the day, Anycubic M5S has more features.
It does.
It has.
But you missed the good price point on it.
Yeah, I did miss the good price point on it. There's still like some ways to get like $50 off on it if I wanted to, instead of $100 off. And then I'm like, it's Anycubic and their customer service, and this is a really experimental printer. So I went with the Saturn 3 Ultra. Yeah,
not surprising.
And of course, I have to get the new wash and cure station with it that's sized to fit the new Saturn 3 Ultra instead of the one I have that's only sized to fit the Saturn and won't fit this. So this is like my third wash and cure machine.
This is why you don't ever actually have to deal with the long-term usage on your tank, isn't it? Because you just replace them so often.
I mean, I need to have a good printer, reliable, because this is my job,
Fair enough. I mean, you should be able to expense that, I'd hope. But...
And welcome, Blasted Samophage. Oh, yeah. And since we're on the topic of Elegoo and we're back to printers, and what I suspect might be happening with this 2.0 is David was able to find David Wickham, friend of the show, and person who painted minis with me this week.
I was supposed to say Pizza Painter Supreme, apparently. Although you mentioned Tony
was his friend. Yes. Tony's awesome. Would love to hang out with Tony again. Was spent a bunch of time running test print after test print, and finally dialed in the correct exposure settings for this, which is 4.3 second exposure layers at 0.03 layer heights, which means that it would be above 5 seconds, probably closer to 6 seconds exposure layers at 0.05 to get successful prints. But he was dimensionally accurate all the way down at 3.2, which makes me think I've messed with this resin. It's rather thin. It is probably designed for the ACF film and not traditional FEP films or FEP2 films. And it's probably dialed in for these new Saturn 3s with the new ACF film.
Interesting.
Because at that point, to get it to print correctly, that's overexposed is crazy. That's like twice as long as dimensional accuracy. That's going to get big. Like all the stuff that you're gaining with the resolution on these high-end printers, you're losing because you're just overexposing like crazy, and all those fine details are going around. So ABS 2.0 still big mystery. Still do not recommend it right now for normal printer use. Stick with 1.0. Or right now I'm trying out Vulcan. I've got, I'm hoping that
cheap stuff from Sunlu or
sure, yeah. Discount Tony's resin. You can get it off the back of a truck.
Hey, I haven't used Rich Opto for months.
I keep hearing the people like more and more people are coming to your defense in chats lately, talking about how great they're having experience with Sunlu.
Yeah, some of this stuff's pretty good. I did some more finicky detail prints, and I did have one of them that like was a little brittle.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like, but I did a lot of feathered high detail minis this week because I finally got around to my phoenixes for the.
Ooh, those very pretty things. So we met up with Hannah Paint Night.
Yes, we did. We did. I got to see some more of your rat boys.
Mm-hmm. But more importantly, you painted these big old purple glorious things.
Yeah, I'm really happy with him. It's kind of hard on this one to see the transition because he actually goes from pink to red to purple to blue, and it just doesn't like it. Mostly just shows off the pink, I think. So it's a little bit clearer, like if you can get like a tilt up on him. But the transitions were really fun to do, and this was actually with speed paint too. I did bust out. I think you convinced me to bring in Cloudburst for the undertone of the blue on the bottom.
Yeah, because that's like Cloudburst is so dark it might as well be black.
Yeah, well, and that was kind of what I was going for because these are corrupted phoenixes. They're supposed to be void phoenixes that look like dark. I was even considering doing some Starfield effects on them, but I didn't dare do it after I got to the point where I liked the transition so much. I was like, I'll leave it in. But yeah, it's so the Cloudburst was the only thing from one that I used. Otherwise, it was a familiar pink, the moody mauve, and Carmen Dragon, I think, is the red tone.
Yeah, I'm surprised with with the 2.0 speed paints, like how many
red, purpley, mauve.
Yeah, there's a ton of magenta. Like it is like Magenta Town in that mega set, which is fine because like the 1.0 set was like, who heard of purple? We don't know what purple is. The
right,
only purple we have is black as my coffee.
Right. It was really dark. Yeah, I mean, having kind of come up with the, I will say pre-slap chop Dana Howell magentas in that color theory that Dana uses a lot, and so like I definitely think it was a good add to that range. Actually, the 2.0 was one of the ones that Dana got to consult on, wasn't it?
Yep.
Coincidence?
Oh,
probably not.
I didn't see any pale sand.
Actually, there are pale sand on those.
Ooh,
there sure is
in my 2.0.
Well, that's because that's the quote unquote secret, and we all hoard it, right?
I have 4 bottles now.
I think I have 4 or 5.
I will collect this meme paint until the day I die.
Although we've been getting really hard time getting restocked on Vallejo stuff, so like terrible. Which, yeah, I have a friend visiting from Seattle, and she was like, "Hey, where should I go to get some dice today?" And she mentions a game store. And I was like, oh, that's another game store I didn't even think of because we have so many here.
I'm just over here drowning in game stores. Most people struggle to have one, and they've just got grouchy Tom sitting in there trying to haggle you down on Pikachu trade-in. But no, you've got 1,000 game stores that suit every desire.
It's a lot. It's a lot, and they're all expanding too. The one that hosted the world record D&D game a couple months ago just doubled their size, and they have a whole tavern set up with extra tables and stuff. So, like,
that sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of a renaissance here for it. It's been neat.
Yeah. So when we met up, I did a little bit of painting of my own.
Yes.
I got my little rat boys. I got another batch of them painted up. So my little rat army continues to grow one furry tail at a time. Except for actually the tails aren't furry. They're little pink things.
Cute.
And some fun. So these were like traditional slap chop. I just wanted to see what just pure slap chop would look like on these models. And actually it worked out pretty well. Like it pops those edges so nicely.
Yeah, it looks nice.
Yeah. Also, this is when I decided to embrace the teachings of what's his face? Ilmas Paints, the Ilmas Paints YouTuber channel. The fact that, hey, just use the good brushes. Like I've been like trying to be like follow all the advice of like don't use your good brushes on speed paints or dry brushing. And definitely don't use them when dry brushing or metallic paints and stuff. And like only
Yep.
use the crap brushes, which means because I use so much speed paints and contrast paints and homemade paints, and like my style of painting leans really heavy into using those paints and like taking advantage of their properties and wet blending with them and like really trying my best to make these cheater paints uh work well,
Mm-hmm.
and get the most out of them. That means I'm never using my good brushes because like I break that out for like what, a few layers of highlights and then get the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So this time I decided, no, I'm just gonna use the Kolinsky Sable brushes. And while I was at the trip, I picked up a batch of
Ooh.
them. So actually now I have a few in stock, so I don't feel like I'm imminently going to never have a good one again due to the import bans. So I got some of the scale 75 ones.
Mm-hmm.
So I grabbed my number 2 while we were painting, and oh my gosh, it just is so much better. It's so much better when the brush does everything you want it to and the tip stays razor sharp the whole time.
Mm. Where did you pick them up?
There was Adventure Games up there in Oshkosh, uh,
Okay.
while like
Shout.
right near just downtown from the college I was demoing at, and was just able to pick it up. It was like a pack of 4 for $65. But they're all Kolinsky Sables, so not a bad price considering the prices lately.
I know, but still.
hmm
Sorry.
If you take care of it, they're supposed to last at least 6 months, and I'm like, I can throw $16 at a brush every 6 months. He's still got a sharp point. He's
Yeah.
not, and you know what it doesn't look like? It doesn't look like Captain Hook.
Hey, I heard the cooing across our video call. I
I know,
know
it's so
how good it
nice.
was. You were a happy boy.
It's so easy.
So,
Like I was even able to like get in there and do the eyes. Like I usually don't bother with the eyes on speed paint ones, but I was like, no, let's get these eyes in there.
you
It was super easy.
and you did not. There was not a single swear. You just did
Yeah,
it, and it was
yeah.
done. I was impressed.
Like I only messed up one eye in the 2 eyes. I messed up 2 eyes during it, and it was real easy to just fix the mess up immediately. Sometimes I have to do like 3 or 4 attempts to get eyes done. But yeah. My advice is if you can, if this is in the budget for you, just get the sables and just use them. Just use them and don't
If
care
you
what
can
happens
find
to them.
them,
Yeah, it's getting harder and harder to find them, and I hope this import nonsense happens. Evidently, there's other types of sable brushes that are popular elsewhere that are not on the import ban. So hopefully that solves a problem. And like, I hope we don't have to go with like horsehair stuff because those brushes are like thousands of dollars.
gee, oh, it's a hard swallow there if you didn't quite catch that.
But, speaking of speed paints, the
Yes.
other big project I finally got around to finishing because I had these printing before the big trip, and when I finally came home, I was able to do it, which was getting those texture caps on my speed paints, priming them up, and actually getting the color on them. And so happy that that's done because now I can just look at my paints at a glance and I can see all the glorious new speed paint colors I have. They're wonderful, wonderful, and so much magenta.
So this was a Thingiverse file? Question mark.
This is a Colts file.
Cults file.
I will. I forget immediately. Of course, I should have had this ready to go. But it's Colts 3D. It's a paid file. It's $6 for the file, which
Uh-huh.
hey, that's something that
Yeah,
happens.
yeah, it
Things cost
supports
money, but saved
somebody.
me so much time. They're actually available in like a whole bunch of different styles. I went with like the
So
rocks, but there's like crystals and skulls and all sorts of things if you want. It's from Illusion FX 3D Prints. It's called quote unquote Army Painter 1.0 and 2.0 Speed Paint Color Swatch Cap 17 millimeter and 18 millimeter rock pattern. It's
gotcha.
got like an Amazon.com name, but
Did you try to keep an even like? Is this one brush across? Is this two? Is it like? Because that was the other thing I was wondering about. Because they do like I mean distinctly different when you put a second coat on, right? It pops even much
This is
brighter.
one coat across. So I took one drop from the bottle and put
Mhm.
it in the center of the cap, and then used a brush to evenly distribute it across the cap, and that's that, and then stopped.
Okay, so it's
Like
as even as you could do just one coat. That's what your
right.
results look like. Cool.
This is really typical of what I get when I just use it on the model as is.
Gotcha.
If I want it to be darker or more rich, go for two coats.
I'm pretty sure I can see that familiar pink like all the way in the second box there.
Yeah, yeah. So it was fun, and then but it unfortunately made my bottles just a little bit taller than they should be,
Oh
which is
no.
not a problem in my paint case in 4 of the 6 slots that these can go, but the middle one, they're just a little too tall to fit
I
in the middle
haven't
racks now.
countered this.
Yeah. So I had to like rearrange I had to pull all the drawers out and then like put all the drawers back in different orders to get them all in the right places. But you
I
know,
did
that happens. That
did
happens.
find out that if you have to, you can take the lid off of the 2 ceiling box. I think I don't know, maybe you didn't get to the boxes though, and they can be turned into makeshift shelves if you need them to.
Weird. I don't know if I want to do that, but hey,
It does work though.
I do have those 2 boxes. One of them has the wet palette in it, and I
Mm.
do not use that wet palette, so I'm thinking about repurposing that. And the other one has the little cable for the USB, but also like a bunch of my brushes and the
Mine
cookie
has
tool.
mine has brushes and then the Citadel tri holder thing in it,
Oh, the
and
don't
then
smell the non-oil thing.
right. Except for I still managed to. The other one, though, since I've taken that top off and turned it into a little mini shelf insert,
Mm-hmm.
it has just become more paint storage because I need all the paint storage. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, anything else you've done?
mm. Mm. Well, just I started painting the elves to go along with phoenixes. I guess they are from Heroes Infinite.
Oh, okay.
And really cool. Man, those minis, because they are, I want to say they're more geared towards 28, less heroic.
Hero. Really? I thought they were 32
I
millimeter
don't
though.
know. They seem very, maybe it's because they're elves. I don't
Okay.
know. They seem very fine.
Mm.
And I picked them because they have, you know me, and spell effects and magic bases. They have some suspended sorceresses that are like floating in these clouds that
So
look really
which
neat.
elf set? High elf,
Um,
dark elf, wood elf.
I want to say they were high elves.
Okay. The
But again, I'm
luminous
pushing that
clones.
whole pushing that whole scheme towards like a dark purpley black.
Mm-hmm.
I think actually that cloudburst blues kind of become my default quote unquote black because I do
Mm.
like that blue highlight in it.
Yeah, Cloudburst Blue is just speed paint Prussian blue.
Yeah, and then just kind of hit it a little bit with some like Black Legion or Grim Black, depending,
Yes.
just to kind of deepen some of the darker spots.
Black Legion's such a good color.
But really neat flying pose bases.
Mm-hmm.
But man, they are really, speaking of brittle. You said you were going to get back to some resin talk. I don't know if you've had your. You said how much Vulcan have you actually printed yet?
I have only printed a whole bunch of test tiles to get it dialed
Okay.
in. That's
All
it.
right, that's all right. So we don't
So
actually
I will
have.
have more next
All
episode
right.
because I've got like a crap ton of Battle Brothers I want to print for a fire team. Because Sis wants to play some fire team and has all these blessed sisters that I've printed up, and so I need some dark brothers to go shoot at them. Though I have all these demo armies that I just got done that I can use in the meantime.
Sure.
Yeah.
That is one of the nice things about those games is having
Mhm.
like I already have more than enough to field skirmishes of about 7 armies now, probably maybe
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
And then like as I build to them, I get to that full army state.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I'm at because like I'm at army scale with the fantasy stuff because like first I like fantasy more than I like sci-fi, so it leads me to put more of the effort there. Secondly, fantasy just feels more right when it's like the line of troops smashing face into the other giant line of troops. third, all these giant masses of models works awesome for RPG campaigns to have like all the
Mhm.
zombies, all the orcs, like, and that's my big goal is to like get all the fantasy creature armies done at least to like 1,000 points, so that I have like the ultimate collection of minis that I have painted myself. Instead, like I want to replace all my pre-paint minis with minis I've painted myself,
Yeah.
and be able to just grab it off the shelf and use it in any of my games. But for the sci-fi stuff, I'm sticking kind of with the skirmish scale because first, time investment, and like, you know, a fire team for the Blessed Sisters was like 6 models,
Yeah.
and then the Dark Brothers I'm putting together is kind of pretty elite even for Dark Brothers. So it's like a destroyer armor, and like a captain. So like, and then like 2 support pieces, and I'm out of points. Like that's it.
Right. Right. I think there's still some holes, like still surprisingly
Hmm.
some monsters that like I haven't seen.
Oh,
You know, like this guy. I think he's technically a Pathfinder monster, but like the
what is
vine,
that?
it's a
Is it
vines.
Greg?
No, it's a viper vine is what it's called.
Mm.
I just really like this mini, and I still haven't seen quite something like it. But speaking of which, I have a new
Mm-hmm.
quest, and I was hoping that there'd be some more sculptors in tonight. I don't see a ton of
Mm-hmm.
our regular creators who are in here,
Mm-hmm.
but are you familiar with the Rod of Seven Parts?
No.
So epic D&D campaign from back in the old days. It got an even more epic, cool update in second edition. This really beautiful box set,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the MacGuffin where this rod is the ultimate expression of the power of law, and when it gets
Mm-hmm.
used in its ultimate form, it shatters across the multiverse, and so it's a big, huge MacGuffin quest where somebody needs it to correct some problem of chaos, and you go looking for it across the multiverse. And with Spelljammer having come out and with Planescape on the horizon, I feel like it's a no brainer for a 5e reboot. If it hasn't happened on DM's Guild already, but it
Right.
probably will definitely. I could see some official attention on it even, but it introduced a whole new class of demons for it. These chaos demon wolf spider things, really really cool. Yeah, that's about the closest I've seen. I'm trying to remember what file that's from, but like I would like to see that whole range of demons, and maybe like it could easily dovetail into like the was that Shemazian from Pathfinder. You could get a whole like canine bug mashup mini line with them, and I'm still not finding very many of them.
Yeah. So I found like the only ones, like I found like a couple of free ones on Thingiverse, and then there's the one from Skullsbar, who is definitely one of the older mini sculptors who just really leans into Lovecraftian horror creations and scary things.
Right.
Um, so like there's at least a few spider wolves out there,
Yeah.
but there's definitely like room for more. But at this point, like it's kind of like, not to poo poo it too much, but like when we start reaching for like these obscure, like for Wild and Season Parts, it makes sense because like this is a classic adventure.
Mhm.
It's not. I don't see a whole lot of Spider Wolf showing up anywhere else though. It seems to be kind of limited to that. But like some of these like planar monsters or rarer Pathfinder monsters is like thing plus thing mashed together. It's going to be really hard to reliably make all of the permutations,
Sure.
especially like without becoming like, eventually you get so specific that it's like, do the IP lawyers need to be intervening
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
here?
I just kind of feel like there's some really talented sculptors out there that could
Hmm.
could easily get like a range, maybe even a kit. Like I think back to what was his name? Um, uh, Battle Yak
Oh, Baliak, yeah.
did some really fun modular chaos beasts that I printed up. Actually, I printed them up in translucent as I recall, and so they have like fading in like because I used them for like dimensional creatures that were like jumping in and out of reality. But like a couple modular kits with that could probably get there.
Hmm.
Um, I think it would be interesting to see them tackled. You know, it's on my wish list. We haven't done a wish list episode for a while.
Yeah. Oh, somebody needs to make more weird demon horriblenesses for Christen, please.
Yeah. Hey, I sub.
Mm-hmm.
We'll sub for demons.
It seems like anything will get you to sub, honestly.
No, actually, I cut down.
You cut down?
I think I'm like under 30, maybe
Under 30.
Hey, that was like sizable reduction.
Okay.
And technically, those 30 include some Pathfinder and and D&D 5e PDF people too.
Okay.
So it's not, and maps. So that's under 30 counting the role playing stuff, not just the 3D print stuff. So
I'm under 32.
it's like 6. Wow. Yeah, I couldn't do that.
Yeah, I keep it under 10.
No. How?
Realizing I can't print all these.
The FOMO would kill me because it's like I went to go and I had skipped Bite the Bullet set, and I went to print something from it. And I was like, wait, I didn't buy this one, or I was like, it's like so expensive now, and so I just had to skip it because I was printing those Cat Girl Ninjas, which the ladies did love, by the way, and they ended up using all the ones that I had picked, not the ones that they were suggesting. So my curation was on point.
We have some 3D printing news, not as much as we've had the last few. Like, believe it or not, it's been 2 weeks and Elegoo hasn't announced 6 printers.
I know, right?
But what we do have is some grumpy news with the Elegoo Saturn 3 Ultra of all around.
The one you just bought? Uh-oh.
Yeah. That's being reported by Uncle Jesse. Uncle Jesse reported on this because they have an advanced unit. So it turns out Chi2 is back to their shenanigans a little bit because one of the new features for the Elegoo Ultra is you can store print files on the printer. You don't have to leave the USB plugged in. You can just send stuff to the printer and it's on the printer, and then you go make the printer print or even wirelessly make it print.
You've always been leery of this feature.
I'm super weary of that part.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. I'm when I tell my printer to move its very expensive parts, I will do so in person because I do not want to take a plate full of minis and then jam it straight into my screen.
Yeah.
Okay, so never mind. It looks like Catlet coming to the rescue here. So originally, it looked like the Wi-Fi feature was limited again to only Chi2. But it sounds like from Catlet coming in at the 11th hour to save our reporting, they have shared the data with Lachi so that all the other slicers may now use the cool new toy.
Well, that's good. I love the idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I want it to work that way, and I love the idea of being able to check status also to be especially in a really big job where there's danger of running out resin. That would be nice to get. Your tank is now 10% of its capacity. Would be cool.
Yeah. And it's like I don't want the printer to start printing without me there. But the idea that I can get files to the printer and load it onto the printer so that when I get to the printer, I can start it with supervision and making sure everything's good without having to play USB stick shuffle is great for me. I like that a lot because I'm always like, wait, no, got to go get back the USB. I left it on the fireplace. And I go back and then
the fireplace. Yeah.
Well, the fireplace is where I keep my keys and my wallet and all the things in my pocket at the end of the night. So I'm always going back there to grab my USB sticks.
Okay, fair enough. I have done that. Things. I have left it on the end table. Mine's upstairs. My printer's upstairs right now. My office right now is downstairs. So there is that. I went upstairs, realized, I left the USB still in the port. Go back downstairs. It'll get my steps in that way though, right? So I guess it's a feature.
And in other feature news, a new feature that we're seeing on the 3 Ultra and the Element 5S and a few other printers is they're now having force sensitive build plates. The printers are able to measure the forces being applied to it while printing, and then will know when the um, well,
Sorry.
one of the things that they're announcing is that they know when the print has failed. They'll be able to detect the failure, and then you can tell it what to do when it detects how much percentage has failed, and then how you want it to behave. Do you want it to stop immediately? Do you want it to keep going? Whatever.
Right.
Or just alert you on your cell phone and say, "Hey, go come check it out. We think something's wrong." Or one of the things I'm actually excited about it is able to tell when it has released from the FEP or the ACF in this case, and then it knows it doesn't have to lift anymore. It can go right back down,
Nice.
which cuts out the guesswork on how high you need to lift each ramp, and therefore the force detection can make sure that it is optimally printing as fast as possible, because as soon as it goes pop, it can go right back down. It doesn't have to continue to go up long after it has gotten.
So theoretically, that would
Yeah,
speed things up quite a bit.
because some layers it might need more, because like there's a bigger mass. Some layers it's just pulling the spear tip off of a corner, and it
Right.
can just like wiggle like a freaking gummy worm and get that done.
Yeah.
Yeah, dynamic lift height. See, Cat was talking about. Honestly, we talk about exposure settings, and exposure does contribute to the total print time, but it is the lift heights, and the lift travel that is causing the most of your print time.
Right.
Is involved with that, and the more you can eliminate that, and with like the new films, meaning you have to lift less and can lift faster, and the dynamic lift heights of being able to detect when it has cleared the film, that will drastically reduce print speeds. And I have a feeling that is how some of these insane print speeds that we're seeing from the Anycubic reports are coming. I mean, like an hour to print a full build plate of Loot Studio miniatures. It's going to be crazy. Half an hour if you're willing to do 0.1 layer height. But at that point, you might as well be printing them in filament.
Right. Right.
I mean, it'll still look worse and it will take 10 times as long, but you're not getting the huge detail increase.
Right. So say now I'm like feeling that clock start in my brain. Oh, Perram got a new printer.
Right.
I should have a new printer. No,
You don't need a new printer yet.
I don't.
You have a
Mine's-
nice printer.
It's still working just fine.
It's working.
I printed Pretty Phoenix on it, so it's still good.
When was the last time you had a print failure?
I had the little Phoenix. Had, it's not a failure. It's just like a layer glitch. But it has like a layer where like it was like very flattened. Weirdly, just one pinion. Everything else was normal. So like I don't know how that could have even happened. Really, it might have been that last time before I changed to the FEP2 though.
Yeah. And James is tuning in saying that when that happens, we're probably mostly going to be tuning for resin viscosity, which is why all these new resins are coming in super thin. They're seeing this coming. They know super fast printing is coming. Christen says, "Get me a 3D Ultra, and I'll send you my used, not new Saturn S."
No.
And me and David were talking, like even then, like I only paid like $500 for the Saturn 3 Ultra, which was less than the launch price of the Saturn S. So like these printers are getting better and cheaper.
And cheaper, yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah, so and the Saturn 3 not Ultra, if you're willing to go with not Ultra features, which honestly I'm not sure all the features that you give up there doesn't seem to be all that much for $100 off. So $399 instead of $499. Like it's like you don't get the wireless printing, and you don't get the something with the Z arm is different, and the housing is plastic, and you have 10 millimeters less Z height And I think that's it.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's worth 100.
It'll probably be impulse the next time I do it. So I'd like to say that I'm going to think it out really well and whatever, but it'll probably be like 2 a.m.
Do you already have it in your cart while we're having this conversation?
No.
Okay.
No. I am definitely being very cautious right now. Gen Con. I still have
Gen Con needs to happen.
that's a huge price on the horizon. So
I
though
will
mostly paid
say-
for at this point. But
I will say at TMX, 3D printing ruled the convention.
that's
There
cool.
was some vintage stuff that was old.
Mm-hmm.
And then all the new stuff was 3D printed. People running 3D printed armies. That entire Fallout board that was 90% 3D printed and looked amazing. And like 3D printing everywhere at the convention. And I only see like at Gen Con, I bet that we are covered up with 3D printed products the entire time we're there. This looks like it looks like this is basically the direction the industry is moving forward. It's like you're going to get 3D printing is going to play a major role in your gaming hobby, whether
From
you
here on out,
actively
yeah.
participate in it or not.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting because I've been participating at a local game store in a lot of their D&D games, and how quickly, you know, the idea of having a 3D printed mini caught on there, and like everybody wants one now. And you know, oftentimes I'm like, oh, I can't sell you one. I don't have a merchant license. So like, if you want, you know, to be my friend for a while, maybe I'll just give you one if I. But I'm not gonna do that. But at the same point, like so many other people are adapting to it, and there are people who are starting to print for sale, getting merchant licenses and stuff up there, and it's just a microcosm. But if it's happening in that one little store like that, organically, it's happening everywhere, right?
Right.
So it's kind of neat.
And speaking of cool things being 3D printed, we have some shout outs.
We do.
Came to me first with a terrain.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. Like, I think one of the reasons why I hesitate to run sci-fi is because I want like a big crazy sci-fi board. I'm gonna blame Necromunda from where I came up in that part of wargaming. But this I think looks pretty great. Unfortunately, the early birds passed, but it's still like it's an Australian project. I want to say it's $54 for over 100 models. Perfect for Necromunda board. Other grimdark stuff, you could definitely use it for some 40k or OPR terrain.
So what's the deal here? It's Zactonium prison mines.
Right. So it's got like a mine, a refinery. There's some detention areas. It's got a lot.
So lots of like industrial stuff and bridges and giant cranes and vats filled with liquid metal to be hazardous. And I'm pretty sure that's a pop bottle.
Yep. You're pretty sure it's a pop bottle?
Yeah.
I mean, it could be a pop bottle.
Yeah, this is cool. Yeah, this generic-y stuff. Oh, they even have interiors. That's great. Like interiors. So this looks like a great industrial 3D.
Just seemed like it had a lot of use. You know, you could use it for your skirmish games. You could use it probably to do like a Space Hulk knockoff. You know, all the things. It looks like it's very durable. Slotted construction.
From Saucerman Studios. I don't believe I've gotten anything from them before, but it looks good. And the price is really on the cheap side, so that's always great.
Absolutely.
Next, we want to shout out to a Kickstarter from a friend of the show,
who doesn't appear to be here tonight.
Titan Troll. David is a friend of the show, and they wanted us to definitely shout out to their new Kickstarter, which is D&D Heroes Rangers.
Yep. The fighter one was really cool, and this one looks great.
So the deal is, it's like a bunch of the common species that you can play in fantasy RPGs, a male and female version that's very characterful of them, but they're all different types of rangers. So a really tight goal with a really well done set of models. There's the humans, which are kind of the most boring of the bunch, but very good, wonderful sculpts. Dave does amazing faces. He loves doing busts, and it shows because like all of his 28 millimeter models might as well be busts with the level of detail that he puts in with the face and shoulders. And then you've got the Elven Rangers, but then things get interesting. There's like the Dwarven Ranger, where the male dwarf's cowl comes down, and all you see sticking out of it is his nose and beard, and
Mm-hmm.
this big giant f-off gun on his shoulder, which I'm digging that. And then the other one of my favorites from this set was the gnomes, and the male gnome looks like he's about to go kung fu dual wielding slings, and the female gnome has her garden hat on, leaning on her bow, and it's glorious, like tiny little pointed shoes. These characters have strong silhouettes, humongous personalities. Dave just does amazing work with all of his sculpts. He definitely go check out their stuff. This Kickstarter, if you're interested in it, it's still going for 5 more days. It is kind of $38 get you the full set, but you can also just come in with like buy 1 or 2 for a couple of bucks if you want to. Also check out Dave's different Patreons and my Mini Factory, because every single month, amazing models.
Was really happy with the depth of the character, like the species options.
I wonder if they'll get the furbolgs.
Maybe.
Let's see. What is that? Those are at 12K. What's this raised so far?
9, I think.
Oh, okay. 9. Okay. Hopefully the furbolgs get unlocked, because those furbolgs look awesome. Yeah. All right. And anything else to shout out to? I think that is everything.
That's about it. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, if you want to find more of our awesome show, you can do so at printyourgames.com. You can also find us over on Facebook at facebook.com/printyourgames. Twitter, not Pritter, twitter.com/printyourgames. And of course on YouTube at youtube.com/Perram. If you want to help out the show, the best thing you can do is give us a review on iTunes or Spotify. Or if you're watching us on YouTube, like us, comment, and subscribe. It helps get us more exposure, and it helps get this podcast out to more people. And that is the single best way you can support the show if you so desire. Until next time, I'm Jefferson J. Thacker, also known as Perram.
I'm Christen Sowards, also known as 7th Mastery. And don't forget to use your screen protector.